Oh,
Right, dudes?
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to NerdJamTV.com's D&D live stream of Hunter Cormier's Norstead Point, or as I like to call it, Hunter's Heavy Metal Fantasy. We fought a shark. Our DM, Hunter Cormier, not only wrote this adventure on his own, but he made all the cool maps that you'll see us playing on using Dungeon Draft. Catch us streaming every Thursday night around 10 o'clock or so. By the way, Hunter and Eddie have this really dope D&D podcast available to you at NerdJamTV.com called Ad Proficiency. If you want to enhance your tabletop experience, check it out. Also, we're going to be doing our 24-hour live stream this Saturday, July 25th. It's our Christmas in July special. Hunter is going to present a Roll20 tutorial at 1:30, and Eddie and Hunter are both going to be chatting as the At Proficiency podcast. We're talking about D&D, all kinds of topics. Might mix in some Q&A as well, and that's going to happen at 2 p.m. You can also catch me, Hunter, and Eddie streaming alongside Phil Finkel and Rob, aka Clutch, as we participate in our annual D&D one-shot. Really looking forward to it, and we hope to see you guys there. It's going to be this Saturday, July 25th, NerdJamTV.com's Christmas in July 24-hour live stream special. Okay, I need a nap after all that. That was a lot. Hunter, why don't you take it away?
well done. Welcome everybody back to Norstead Point. We had a very wild session last session. Before we jump into some recap, I'm going to go ahead and run through who we're working with you guys. We've got the wonderful Matt playing Bruce Fantana, our action hero character. The wonderful Savannah playing Buttercup Lee. She's a no-nonsense herbalist healer. And Eddie, the Magnificent, playing Victor Mutare, who's a sort of advanced geneticist, Jekyll and Hyde shapeshifter sort of character. Last session was a wild one. Basically what happened was
There was a whole lot.
There was a whole lot, man. You finally smooshed Ashta. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but after a failed attempt, or rather, the Pale Invaders, right, tried to capture you, Bruce, and some of the other sick people, and actually succeeded with some of the sick people. Brought you to the ocean, and then conjured up a giant storm. The water from which they used to summon themselves and sort of draw themselves up from the depths. The Pale Invaders came to the city, but both Buttercup and yourself, sort of independent of each other across town, each kind of non-violently diffused the situation, and were shown a vision of a singing creature deep below the water. And Bruce, you have heard this creature sort of like sing to you in dreams before and kind of call to you. And afterwards, they kind of like spoke to one another. Victor rather, you saw this in your Cesarthic form as they kind of spoke to one another with their sort of organs in their body kind of lighting up and kind of communicating with flashes of light. And then they all sort of left. And the next day, a large black sphere kind of appeared above town. It freaked out a bunch of people, but the three of you decided to go to the Great Avian to take it up on its offer to give you guys a way to travel underwater. And in exchange, Victor had offered up a locket of his, which contained the pictures, I believe, of his family. Is that correct, Victor?
That is correct.
Yes. As well as offered up his true name, which was more than enough to cover all three of you. So the Great Avian gave you all a blessing of air. You are now able to sort of create a bubble which travels with you as you move underwater, allowing you to sort of travel underwater areas. And as this was happening, there was this like colossal like lurch in the earth as this titanic clam sort of like shot up out of the ground, kind of engulfing the cliffside that Norstead Point was located on, and swallowing up all of Norstead Point, as well as that black sphere which kind of appeared above town. And as it kind of receded away, you guys had learned that Ashta had like kind of moved herself outside and then pointed up at the sky and protected a kind of like random area in the vicinity here, which all the other villagers had claimed like the clam kind of closed around them and then passed through them. They all thought they were going to be crushed as everything closed around, but they all found themselves strangely unharmed. Seeing this from the Great Avian was absolutely delighted to see that you were incentivized to assist it, and Bruce, you weren't too pleased at this and tried to actually chuck a gold coin, which only impressed the Great Avian, as well as Victor, who transformed, impressing it even further. All of you swam back to what remains of Norstead Point, which was this ice island here. I'll actually show you guys here. It was... this Ashta's island of ice was sort of just floating on the town, or floating where the town used to be, rather, with this sort of deep abyssal pit beneath it. And you all swam out to the island to find the survivors who you had all quarantined inside the Clifton house, as well as the unpleasant neighbors who y'all had some conflicts with, their family, and somewhat of
We
their
got
house
Marjorie.
destroyed. You have Marjorie, you also have Eustace, as well as the brewer and his family next door, who you guys have not met yet. And that brings us back to here. You have just returned with a bark-covered sphere, as well as the blessing of air, so you're now able to move underwater. Everyone is very happy to see you, because they're like, holy shit, we have no clue what's going on. And Bruce, Fantana, and Buttercup are here. Buttercup, you were witnessed carrying out Cecily, or rather, Beatrice. So we are all caught up. Ashta is currently unconscious.
Didn't Bruce sing to her?
Yes, Bruce, you did sing to her, and Victor and Buttercup both noted, even though you couldn't put your finger on where you'd heard the song, it was actually the song that she had sung to you, as you were falling asleep.
Okay.
I believe the night before. I think this is day 5.
What is her condition? Does she appear sick or just sleeping?
She is unconscious. She appears sleeping. She has not woken up since your return to town, which at this point hasn't been terribly long.
I think Bruce would try to find some water to throw on her or something.
Okay. Alright, Bruce. It's easy enough for you. As you step outside, there's plenty of water for you in every direction on the other side of this ice wall. You just want to go to like the ocean over here and grab some water for her?
Yeah, I'd probably need something to carry it in. So I guess Bruce would probably like look around the house before he leaves and try to find like a bucket or something.
Yeah, sure. There's like pots, pans, buckets. You're able to find something. While you're doing this, Buttercup and Victor, what are the two of you doing?
At the moment, Buttercup is looking at the sphere, wondering how that is going to be a cure for everything. So, she very delicately,
very heavy.
She looks it over very carefully and tries to find a piece of bark that's like coming off naturally on its own, so she's not going to damage it in any way. So that way she can test it to see if it's the bark itself or if there's something inside of it.
None of the bark is peeling. It is very tightly sealed, and the bark all seems to be like in good health. That being said, it's rugged enough that, like, if you wanted to shave off a slice or something, you could do that.
Yeah, that's what she's gonna do. Then she's gonna very carefully carve off a small slice so she can take a look at it.
Sure, go ahead. Victor, what are you doing?
I'm going to make sure, see if any of the other townsfolk are still like ill or showing symptoms of the illness they previously had, or if any of them are, or if they're all cured.
Well, okay. Victor, as you're going around town, kind of just like assessing these various people here, Bruce, you are going to kind of wander past, because you're getting ocean water, right? You're going to wander, and as you sort of get to this icy wall, you're just casually going to sort of step through it the way you came in, and the ice just sort of like parts around you and seals behind you, right? And at this, Victor, you're going to notice, Bruce, you don't notice it because you're on the other side of the ice wall, but Victor, you are going to notice that many of these townspeople here are very alarmed that Bruce just walked right through that ice wall. So they're like, how did he do that? Oh, he's not trapped like that.
'Cause I'm Bruce Fantana.
He's Bruce Fantana.
I kind of
Bruce, you get your water.
try and calm the people around me just a little bit. Mr. Fantana seems to have a special connection with the creature that has protected us, so I imagine he has free passage through the wall. I try and just just calm them down and like keep going about my work. I'm not trying.
Go ahead and roll me a persuasion check. As you kind of emerge from the house here, you're asking around. Many of these townspeople are going to turn and face Bruce's direction. Remember that you can shift and double click your token to pull up your...
Let me retype that. That didn't work.
Your journal entry. Also right clicking the
Alright, so that's going to be
That's
a 17.
way better.
17.
Nice.
I rolled a D0.
You always get a 0 with a D0.
I crit, guys.
You should make a
I
Nerd
crit.
Jam D0.
Crit. Okay.
Lol.
Alright, that's pretty good. So what's gonna happen is they're going to begin kind of crowding around you, Victor. But you can see that what you have said has sort of put them at ease a little bit. And Bruce, you're kind of going to just walk back in with a bucket of water, not really thinking too much of what you're doing. And as you come back in, you're going to see that Victor is starting to get surrounded by like some of the people who are left here. And Victor, they're all kind of clamoring around you, and they're saying like, we have questions, like we want to know what's going on.
Does Bruce overhear that?
Yeah, Bruce, as you're walking back in, somebody is going to ask Victor, like, what in the name of the three is that thing? Like, kind of pointing to the Clifton house. They're referring to Ashta.
I just kind of look at them and I just, very matter of fact, like, she is your savior. I don't see the problem here.
Yes, but what is she?
That matters not. She cares for all of your lives. She has protected you. She is an ally of ours. We can't really. He takes a moment and kind of looks around at them and just leaves it at that.
Bruce.
Okay.
Bruce notices Victor gassing up his lady, and he kind of looks over at Victor, and Breeze comes out of absolutely nowhere and like flutters his hair ever so slightly, bandana kind of waves, and he looks over at Victor and he just gives him the biggest thumbs up in the world.
Nice. Hell yeah. It's roll me a performance check just in case. Victor, as you say this, there's a voice from the back of the crowd. 5, okay.
Yeah.
Still looks glorious. There's a voice from the back of the crowd that says, that woman, the out-of-towner, the one who protected Chastain's the other night, she had a necklace, and she showed it to those thing. Oh shit, sorry. I was muted that whole time. Fucking A.
No, you weren't muted.
Okay.
I could hear you.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Am I muted?
You're good. Yeah.
We all good?
No, we can hear you.
Am I not using my Yeti? I'm not. Fucking A. Okay.
That's.
Hey, your voice suddenly sounds.
I thought you were in a cathedral.
Wow. Okay. Wow. God damn it. Okay. So now I'm on my Yeti. So yes, there's a voice from the back of the crowd that he's referring to Buttercup. And he's talking about how at Chastain's the other night, Buttercup sort of revealed in front of other people this necklace that she had, and she was sort of showing the Pale Invader. And Victor, this guy in the back of the crowd who actually gets like a good amount of attention from the crowd, who's kind of like looking as he's saying this, he sort of points out like, hey, that girl from out of town had something, and those things, whatever they were, they responded to it. What's going on with that? How do you guys know, sort of asking both Bruce and Victor, that you can trust her?
I look at them. I was like, that was an item she found under the in the cave below this below where we stand. We were there with her. This is not her fault.
Below where we stand? You're talking about that distant cave down the cliff there,
Yes,
behind the house?
absolutely. That we found this item within the cave.
And the crowd kind of murmurs to themselves, and they're like, well, that's very unusual. Like, why would that be there? One of them is going to speak up, right? And it's this girl, Bruce. You recognize her as Nicole. You had actually spoken to her the other night when the invasion was happening. And she's going to say, I had a dream of a singing shelled creature. Do you know what that was? And at this, everyone else is going to sort of like be very alarmed, and they're like, oh, I had a dream like that. And Bruce, they're referring to the dream that you had. You have seen this singing shelled creature as well.
Haven't I seen it just because the creature showed it to me last night?
If it showed it to you, then yes.
I believe so. Because we were communicating.
Yes, I think you guys had come to a non-violent agreement, and then they decided to like invite you down rather than just take you. I love how you jump.
Invite. That's what the claim was? That was an invite?
Yeah.
Heard.
It's a red carpet, dude.
An elevator.
Escalator?
Sort of an organic elevator. So yeah, they're asking you guys basically about this stuff. Do y'all have anything to respond to that with?
So Bruce is walking back to the house with his water, and he overhears Nicole talking about the same dream he's had, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I guess Bruce would go over and talk to Nicole. Just amble on over here.
Victor, Bruce just walks like through the middle of the crowd, like straight up to this little girl over here.
Bruce kind of kneels down. I've had that dream too, kid.
What is it, Mr. Fantana?
Don't worry, kid. Whatever happens, me, the Doc, and Buttercup, we can handle it.
Bruce, you can see a glimmer of both hope and admiration in this child's eyes. And she says, "Really? Those things aren't going to come back, are they?"
Bruce is going to untie his red bandana, his red sweatband.
Oh,
And
snap.
he's going to hand it to Nicole, and he's going to say, if they do come back, you put this on, and you beat their ass.
Oh, shit. I give you
I
inspiration,
literally
but you
just thought
haven't
about that
used it
too.
yet.
I was like, God damn it, do I get double inspiration before you even said anything? It's all good.
It was so good. Oh, God. I feel like I may have missed an opportunity.
Yes.
This is the most action hero thing I've ever seen.
So everyone's kind of watching Bruce kind of kneel down and reassure this little girl. And Victor, looking around, you can see they're all reassured that you guys are here and that y'all seem to know what you're doing. But with heavy emphasis on the word seem. You don't know if they're coming back or not, Victor. And you don't know what to tell these people about that either. What do you tell them?
I just kind of nod at Bruce as he's making his statement, and everyone's, reassured. I'm just kind of silently agreeing with him.
Okay.
I don't have an explanation, so at this point, I'm not gonna lie to these people about it.
So you're not lying, but you're just like nodding along with everybody. Just like, yeah, we got it under control. Okay, sure. But you know.
How confident is Victor right now that he does know what's going on and that he can handle it? Does Victor seem confident?
Am I having to make a roll?
I'm just curious.
No, you don't have to make a roll. Just like yeah, curiosity.
I mean, Victor is super confident that he can handle anything that is thrown at him, just because of.
Yeah. So Bruce at this point kind of just looks over Victor up and down, and he's just like assured or reassured, knowing that Victor seems very calm.
Okay. All right. Buttercup, what are you up to again?
She is still testing that sliver of bark to see if it's the actual bark itself or if they have to like crack into the bark itself to get to the cure.
Roll me let's see. Roll me an herbalism kit check. 10.
I have a button and I just hit it.
As far as you can tell, it's perfectly normal tree bark. But that doesn't really make sense, and that doesn't really explain why this thing is so much heavier than it looks. It seems like it must be very dense. No, dense isn't the right word, but it's very heavy.
She's kind of stumped at the moment, so she walks to the door and leans out the doorway, and she's like, Victor, can you come in here and help me assess this?
Yeah, at this, Victor, you're given like an escape from this crowd here.
I go ahead and I quickly make my way over, just coming Miss Buttercup, and make my way inside.
Okay, go right ahead. Cecily will be sitting at this table here. And Beatrice is now up and about, no longer sick or singing, or sick still, but no longer singing. And Victor, all of these people are still infected.
She turns to look at Victor and she's like, I tested the bark, but the bark seems to be standard wood. Would you think that the cure would be inside? And if so, how would we go about it without letting it go everywhere?
So I imagine I would have a small drill of some kind. Can I do an investigation check to see if this orb is hollow or not?
Okay. And you're going to try drilling into it?
Well, first I want to check and see if it's like hollow, if it's like filled with a fluid or something like that.
Okay. You knock on it. It's not like an empty hollow sound, but it's kind of like a muffled sound too. Not quite what you expected from like a solid object. Roll me an investigation check as you sort of assess this thing.
Alrighty, give me one sec.
Using your drill. Are you using your drill?
I just wanted to check it out first.
Okay.
Sorry, I just want to check it out first.
So a cursory check as you're like knocking on it, Victor. This object is filled with liquid. Whatever it is.
All right, so I'm going to use. I guess should I get my kit, my medicine kit, that kind of thing, to get into this orb?
You could use an herbalism kit if you want to get in there. I'm not gonna
Sure, I'll go ahead and do that.
charge a cost of that. Okay. So Victor and Buttercup, Bruce, what are you doing, by the way? Are you still after comforting Nicole? And did you just follow Victor?
So
inside the house?
Bruce followed Victor into the house. He's carrying the bucket of water and he pours it onto Ashta while they're kind of looking this thing over. And Bruce kind of eyeballs it suspiciously. Is there a reaction to Ashta as he pours the water on?
There's no reaction whatsoever.
Buttercup runs over while he's mid-pouring. Wait, don't use all of it.
It's cold, too.
And while he's and stops him, and then she gets bandages, and she's all like, here, so that way we can at least make it last longer. We can, get the rags wet and lay them against her, so that way it helps her stay moist.
Yeah, so Bruce stops mid-pour, looks over at Buttercup, and just gives her a nod. Just kind of sets the bucket down.
It's super easy for you guys to get water too, Bruce and Victor. By the way, Victor, I kind of forgot to mention this, but the townspeople, maybe I did mention it. The reason that they were murmuring so much when Bruce went through the ice is that none of these townspeople can move through the ice.
Okay. So
they were all very alarmed to see Bruce Fantana just walk right through that ice like that.
So all of us can, but they can't.
The three of you guys just walked right into town, yeah.
And it's too bad we don't have a larger boat to try and get some of these people out of here.
Yeah, I'll swim here.
Yeah, right.
So as they're kind of fumbling around with this thing, I think Bruce would go up to both of them and just kind of talk about it and just say, I don't know if I trust that thing. I don't trust that bird at all.
I plan to do a thorough investigation of this quote-unquote cure before I administer it to anybody.
Buttercup kind of shrugs and looks at him. Well, you know, Victor said he's going to test it. And then if it doesn't work, maybe we can just all have a big old barbecue of bird.
I like the sounds of that.
So, what would y'all like to do?
Hey, Doc, how much time do you think these people have?
So I would say, this is me asking the DM. With my knowledge, I guess, with the progression of what's been going on and the symptoms they're showing, um, how long would I be able to extrapolate a length of time they have?
To be completely fair, you are a man of science, and from what you can gather, even though you haven't really told these people, this seems to be more the territory of, like, magic and witchcraft.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to say. You're really not sure. In fact, you consider that the best thing to do may just be to fake confidence, since you really can't protect these people, but I'll leave that up to your morals.
So I look at Bruce and just very calmly, I'm like, I know we shouldn't trust this bird, but this may be we made a deal and I gave something more precious than I can describe in return for it. So I imagine, even though there is some trickery at work, this cure will work.
Okay, Doc, I trust you. What did you give that bird?
And his
Victor's
train.
kind of quiet for a minute, and then just very quietly, just my old life. And then he goes about the work of separating out the cure into so that he can dose it out to people.
What are you doing to separate this cure?
I'm going to gather. First thing I'm going to do is gather a little bit and just kind of inspect it, see if I can discern what it is. I guess would I be a medicine check?
It'd be an investigation check, or an herbalism kit check if you're trying to, like, crack it open or something.
Yeah, I guess go ahead and do that.
Nice.
13. Okay. Okay. So I will say this, Victor, as you are sort of like peeling off some of this bark, you get like kind of particularly deep into it, and you see like a little pinprick of what looks like orange flesh beneath. Possibly flesh? Hard to say. You see orange color. It's beneath the bark.
So it kind of looks a bit like a fruit almost.
You could think of the bark as like a peeling, sure, or like a skin.
So this orange substance that's beneath the bark, is it solid? Is it like a liquid?
It is the orange substance beneath the bark. Now that you're taking like a closer look at it, seems to be a very thin layer of something akin to skin. As far as you can tell, it seems to be liquid beneath it.
So before I don't pierce the membrane just yet, I'm going to see if I can get a transfusion kit out of my medicine bag and use that to pierce the skin as small as little as possible, and use that to transfer the liquid beneath into vials.
The liquid within is a sort of thick, rich orange liquid with a sort of red center, which is sort of like its own sort of floating blob within the orange liquid.
It's like
very
that egg from the
bizarre.
Mandalorian.
Can I do an investigation of the liquid to see if I can discern like what it is, or if it's, I guess, magical in nature?
Sure. Go ahead and roll me herbalism or investigation. Yeah, not too sure what this is. It doesn't look terribly familiar to you. It's
Are
orange
the
and
take
it's
20
goopy.
rules still in here? I missed taking 20 from 3.5.
Oh yeah, just study it all night and take a 20 on it. That's OP.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking a 20, good lord.
That sounds good.
Okay. You can't tell what it is.
Would an herbalist? Can I still do an herbalism kit check with a different kit?
You I'm gonna go ahead and say like you used your various resources, like trying to figure out what this is. While Victor's inspecting this egg, what did the two of you guys do?
Bruce is going to go up to Buttercup, and he's going to say, "Hey, Buttercup, I heard you did something with a necklace. Got those guys out of here."
She turns and looks at Bruce and gives a nod, and she's like, "Yes, it's the same necklace that I used whenever we first met Ashta."
And then she appeared, right, when you used it?
Yeah, I guess you could say she appeared. One of the sea people did, and then she came to life from a statue. Which, if you ask me, that's kind of weird. Did they like? Never mind. I'm thinking too much into that.
Bruce is going to look at Buttercup. Hey, it'd mean a whole lot to me if I could maybe just borrow that necklace for a minute and give it to my weird fish girlfriend for just a second. I'm really worried about her.
She looks at Bruce and she's like, "Of course," and slips it off of her neck and passes it to him. So that way he can see if it helps Ashta. And she's like, "If it doesn't work, just give it back to me."
I won't forget this. And then he goes over to Ashta and tries to put the necklace on her.
Okay. You put the necklace on her, and nothing happens.
Fine. Well, we had that nice moment, so
It's not a bad
no, it's
idea.
fine. No,
Not a
Bruce.
bad idea at
Bruce
all.
takes off the necklace. He doesn't feel anything special when he touches it, does he?
Bruce, you can feel a sort of, I don't know how to describe it, like a sort of energy kind of emanating from this necklace.
Does Bruce feel like Buttercup might be able to? Well, okay, so Bruce goes over to.
Your fingertips are tingling.
Bruce
when you
goes
hold
back
it.
over to Buttercup and says, Hey, Buttercup," hands the necklace back. "Do you think maybe we could use that one more time?"
She takes the necklace back and slips it over her head, and she's like, "And what means do you mean? Like whenever we summoned her, or?"
I need a fish person to tell me what's wrong with her.
She thinks about it for a second. She gives a nod and then looks at Cecily with Beatrice, and she's all like, "Would you like to be here for this, or would you rather not? Choice is yours, but I'm going to summon something that might scare the both of you."
This Cecily is going to sort of like walk over to Beatrice, and she says, "No, we're gonna go ahead and step out while you do this." And the two of them are going to move through the open door, which is no longer there because Bruce threw it into the black
Oh
screen.
yeah.
There's no
That's
door.
true.
They're going to wait outside.
Breathing a sigh of relief, Buttercup kind of gets comfortable and closes her eyes and just feels for that pulse that the necklace always seems to have around her, and focuses on that and the intensity of it to see if she can bring up another person and hopefully be able to figure out what is going on.
Okay. So as before, Buttercup, where are you choosing to do this?
She's gonna be like
Just like
sitting
pick a
over
spot.
here against the wall or something like that, like on the floor.
Okay. So as before, a small, like, in a small area, droplets of seawater, as you sort of channel your will into this artifact, they begin dripping up off the floorboards towards the ceiling, increasing until there's like a steady like downpour, except it's going up towards the ceiling, and a pool of water sort of gathers on the ceiling, and then from out of that pool there's like a as these two gray-blue hands sort of like press against the ceiling and kind of grab the edges of the puddle, and with a just like this marrow is going to sort of like flop off the ceiling onto the floor.
Bruce is gonna kneel in front of the marrow and start singing Ashta's song.
Oh, okay. Bruce, as you do this, this marrow is immediately taken aback as it sort of like kind of recoils and then kind of quickly looks about the room, seeing you kneeling and singing a song it's familiar with, seeing Ashta unconscious on the bed, and seeing a human Buttercup over here holding a necklace belonging to one of the priestesses. And it's going to sort of like regard you, Buttercup. Kind of questioning.
Slowly she opens her eyes and looks at the marrow and sees what Bruce is doing. And she says, she's like, I don't know what you're saying, but what can we do to help her? Like, and she moves very slowly and then touches the marrow gently if he allows her, and then, like touches Astra, because she's like kind of crawling
Nice.
across the floor. She's like, what can we do?
It's very confused, Buttercup, but as you approach it, it bows its head and kind of breaks eye contact with you, kind of looking downward in deference. It understands your intentions. So even though it doesn't understand your words, given that you asked it that, it's going to move over, sort of do like an examination of Ashta, and then kind of move back to you, and then sort of like say a few things in a language you don't recognize and kind of shake its head.
So I'm going to change into Cesarthic real
Nice.
fast. And once I do, I'm going to speak to the
Yes.
marrow in deep speech.
Interesting.
Nice.
Okay. So you guys watch as Victor shifts into Cesarthic. Can you guys roll me a
Absolutely.
perception check?
20? Not a nat 20.
So you're the only one that notices, but Cecily and Beatrice are both kind of peeking through the window here. As Victor, you shift into Cesarthic, but as you reach out with your mind to communicate with this Marrow and Ashta, you feel nothing in response. It seems that these two are not aberrations, nor do they understand like the aberrant mind speech.
So, Scythic seems a little irritated and paces back and forth before turning back into Victor.
Shift back into Victor. It's quite a spectacle. This Marrow isn't sure what to do. It's a little confused. Question, who has the sphere right now?
I believe Victor.
I had it, but I had set it down to while I could communicate with the Marrow.
Okay. I was gonna say it's pretty big. It's like, I don't know. It's big.
Bowling ball sized.
I was gonna say bowling ball, but it's big, like 4 bowling balls.
Okay.
It's like not
So, yeah, I
quite
probably
torso
would've-
sized, but like it's fucking big. It's like holding like
Okay.
a 5-year-old.
Or like,
Maybe 4, maybe like a big 4-year-old.
okay. So this this wiggling ball of nonsense. No, I'm kidding. No, I will definitely have been working on separating out. After I guess this, I'll go back to the ball and start working on again separating doses of the liquid beneath the skin into vials. Since I couldn't communicate with it.
Okay, so you're going back to screw with the ball.
Yes,
Is that
I'm
what you
gonna
said?
go back to my work. I basically I stopped my work to try and help out and communicate, but since I
I see.
couldn't,
I
I'm
see.
gonna go back to my work and work on the ball.
Okay. Victor, there's not too much to say about the ball itself. The bark around the sphere, as far as you can tell, seems to be perfectly normal tree bark. Although it's seemingly not being fed by anything. Like there's no nutrient source, like there would be in a normal tree system for this bark. So it's odd that this bark is perfectly healthy, like it is. But aside from that, there's just like this thin orangey skin and this kind of orange goop beneath, but you haven't like pierced the skin or anything yet. Buttercup and Bruce, the two of you are engaged with this Marrow. It is confused. You can see looking at it that it has great reverence for Ashta, but Ashta is out cold.
Buttercup sighs after the Marrow, pretty much indicates that, they don't know what's going on. And so she sighs and like rubs her head. She's like, I wish I knew what I could do. And she has the necklace in her hand and she's, kind of like worrying over it with her thumb. And she gets a thought that it has helped her summon a Marrow. Would it help communicate if she would funnel her will into the necklace towards the Marrow so that way they could possibly communicate?
Roll me an insight check at advantage, Buttercup.
I like this. I like this.
Very interesting question.
Yes.
Nice. So a 20 will do it. The first, in general, it rolls twice, but so with a 20, Buttercup, you have noticed at this point, you don't know if this Marrow understands your words or what, but every time you have requested something to the Marrow, it seemed to respond perfectly in turn. But when it responds back to you, it doesn't say anything. Or rather, you don't recognize its language. As far as you can gather, Buttercup, it seems to understand what you're wanting it to do when you tell it to do something.
Thinking
So,
about this,
so you know it's one way at least.
yeah, she knows it's at least one way, so she starts focusing her will back into it and trying to channel the want for them to have communication to where they can both understand. Um,
Okay.
to see if she is able to, at least have the necklace interpret stuff for her if it can.
All right. At this, the marrow is going to blink a few times and look at you all very curiously. Whenever it's attempting to communicate something back to you, it's going to do a more thorough job. Using a combination of pantomiming and sort of speaking its own language, you guys can see pretty clearly that it's trying to convey it doesn't know why she's unconscious, but she is obviously someone who is extremely important in the culture. It also doesn't know why you have that necklace, and it points to that necklace and then points to Ashta.
So, Bruce is gonna look over at Victor and say, "Hey, Doc, maybe we should wait. Maybe we should wait before we administer that, because I'm not so sure it'd be a cure. I don't trust that bird. But what about this? We go with the marrow and let him take us somewhere where we can help her. And then we try to get some answers."
I'll point out that Buttercup alone rolled an insight check to see if the bird was trying to deceive you all, and she knows for a fact that the bird was telling the truth about this orb being like a cure-all for the problems in Norstead. It wasn't trying to deceive you as far as that orb being extremely important, but none of y'all can tell what the orb is at this point, and Victor's the only one tinkering with it. Now, Victor, you haven't opened it yet?
I thought I had used a transfusion kit to get some of the liquid out.
Okay. Yeah, so if you like, you can just stick a syringe in there and extract some of the liquid. And what you extract is sort of this salty, gentle orange goop. It's very viscous, slippery, and slimy. In fact, as soon as you touch it with your fingertips, Victor, your fingertips feel a little tingly, and your hand suddenly feels strong, like you could crush something in your grip.
Interesting. So I'm going to make sure to keep a sample of this to myself before I divvy out enough. I make sure to get a sample first before I bring it up to Bruce and offer him some of the liquid.
Ooh, that's a moral dilemma for Bruce Fantana. He knows he's pretty sick, right?
You are sick. You are sort of seeing things from time to time, such as when you fell into the ocean. You are sweating pretty profusely now, like these saltwater droplets dripping off of you, and you've begun to grow quite pale.
I tell you what, Doc. Set some aside for me. I don't want to take it yet. Maybe down the road.
Victor nods a bit and corks a vial before putting it aside. And I want to find someone who's willing to be a test subject.
Oh, do you say that? Does Victor convey that?
Yes, I do say that. I was like, I need someone to be a test subject before we.
Buttercup looks up and she's like, "Well, you did have that family that you put the X on the door. Use one of them."
Victor kind of looks at her. Very true. Let me see if I can go speak to them very quickly. So I'm gonna get a vial of the substance real fast, and a separate vial as than the one I already have, and try and see if those people that were living next door are either outside or in their home.
I mean, there's only two houses in here. It's very easy for you to locate the family, like just somewhere about town. There is a sick mother and a sick daughter. There is also a son and a father who are not ill.
So I'm going to go up to the sick mother of the household, and just very, very matter of factly, I have what I believe to be a cure. I need a test subject.
Roll me either persuasion or deception, depending on whichever one you're doing. Kind of curious to see what you roll for this. Oof. Okay. So Victor, as you kind of knock on the door, the mother is going to answer. The kids are sort of just like playing, in the living area. And as she answers the door, she sees it's you, Victor, and she's like, "Oh, like, what do you want?" And you tell her. She's going to notice the mark on the door, and she's going to say like, like, "Whoa, somebody's drawing on my door." I don't like that.
I just very calmly look at her. That was me, ma'am.
Oh, she's gonna say like, "Okay, why'd you do that? I don't particularly appreciate you drawing on my door."
Because frankly, my original intention was to not help your home and leave you to your fates. However, I have what I believe to be a cure, and I need expendable test subjects.
So, with a roll of 7, she's gonna pick up on that like expendable word and be like, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, expendable." She's like,
So without warning her, I'm just going to splash the vial on her face.
Yes. That's
okay, so you just like splash it
gotcha.
in her face.
Yes, I'm basically hoping some of it makes it into her mouth.
The orange, salty goop like splashes in her eye area, and she sort of like shrieks as you hurl this in her face. And she like recoils and kind of like trips over this chair here, kind of tripping onto the floor.
As she is like running around inside, I'm just gonna calmly walk in and look at the young girl, and just young lady, I have a medicine for you that I believe will help. It just calmly ignoring the fact that the mom is running around shrieking.
As the mom trips over the chair, falling prone on her back on the floor, like clutching her eyes, the little girl, seeing you walk into the house, is going to start screaming, and the little boy, like panicked, and holding a toy crossbow, just kind of stares at you like wide-eyed in horror. But the mother. The mother stops shrieking rather abruptly and stands like kind of upright. And she says, What have you... What is this? I feel great. And in fact, I feel better than I have in years. And Victor, now that you look at this woman, her paleness has receded. The kind of like veiny look she was beginning to gather like at her temples and throat areas have receded. And in fact, she looks quite energetic.
Excellent. So I hold up another vial of the medicine and turn to the daughter. Now, may I treat your innocent daughter before you experience another rash of foolishness?
She's going to ignore that slight because she wants treatment for her kid. And she's like, yes, please, treat my quote-unquote innocent daughter.
So,
Why you
yeah,
threw that in there?
because I wasn't going to treat
Like
this
4 years
entire
old,
family
she
because
is.
of the choices of the mom.
Okay, well, I mean, this
So that's
kid,
why I said it that way.
she kind of like does the whole like she's afraid. Okay, she's afraid. She's confused because her mother suddenly stood up off the floor, and was just like, oh, I feel awesome, But at the same time, she's just like, who is this tall, slender, creepy guy who just like splashed orange goop in my mom's eyes? And she's okay with it.
He just kind of kneels down next to the girl and like he's at her level. He shows her the liquid and says, "So this is medicine that will help. I had to do that with your mother because sometimes adults think they know better than other adults and they don't." I smile at her. I smile at the little girl and look back at the mom before looking back at the girl.
The shade. Go on, doctor.
He he takes a little bit out of the vial and onto his hand, and he kind of offers it to her, and he's like, I will merely put a little bit on your skin. You won't have to drink it. Nothing of that nature." He kind of looks at it and says, I know that this looks icky, so just want you to touch a little bit of it and see how you feel afterwards. Is that okay?" He seems to have a noticeably better bedside manner.
Yeah, she kind of looks between you and her mom, like not too sure, but then like she doesn't say anything to you. She's too shy, but she just kind of nods, and you just want her to stick her finger in it.
He has some on his hand, and he kind of takes her hand and puts a little bit on the back, like rubs some of the compound on the back of her hand, as basically contact with skin seemed to have done the trick with the mom.
You rub it on the back of her hand, and a few seconds go by, and the mom's kind of watching expectantly. But Victor, you notice that the symptoms that the girl is showing, that the mother had, don't seem to fade quite so immediately. Make me a medicine check. Okay.
Hey.
You're not too sure
Hey.
why this might be.
I rolled an inspiration check. I added
Ooh.
inspiration to that.
With a 16, you note that when you splash the goop in the mother's eyes, it went directly into her system through like basically like just like part of the exposed parts of her face.
Mucous membranes, basically, so it has to be ingested.
You get the sense that skin contact may not be enough.
So I look at the little girl and I frown a little bit, but in a playful way, and I'm like, well, apparently you will have to try a little bit of it. Will you be willing to do that?
She kind of looks at her mom, and her mom's kind of looking at you, and her mom nods. She nods.
So I portion a little bit into like a spoon and give it to the young girl.
Almost immediately, the symptoms just blast away. The paleness recedes almost like unnaturally quickly. the veins just like immediately set, and this girl looks perfectly healthy. In fact, she looks like delighted, and she looks at her mother pleased, and she kind of looks back at you and she smiles. And the mother's immediately going to turn to you and just say like, "Thank you, doctor. Thank you." She's
He just kind of stands and smiles a bit and says, "No,
she
miss.
like
Thank
wipes the
you."
goop off her face, and she's like, "We're so lucky to have you,
Just
despite
no,
your odd
miss. Thank
methods."
you. Sometimes people don't know what's best for them, and the hand needs to be forced, unfortunately.
Oh my god.
But I'm
No
glad you're
shame.
feeling better. I go ahead and take my medicine and I just as I'm exiting, may your family be well, and I go ahead and just go to the rest.
That's a good scene.
Okay. She's gonna wash the X off her door because she's not super pleased. But they're now healed. Excellent job, Victor. Bruce and Buttercup, thank you so much for waiting. What would you guys like to do with this marrow while Victor is gone, trying to figure out what's going on? I would say you guys have about 15 minutes because Victor went straight.
Bruce is going to try to teach him how to flex.
Oh, okay. Okay, Bruce.
The best of skills.
As you're flexing with this marrow, you note that the marrow have like very dense muscles. They're kind of like ropey, but they're very powerful.
Word.
Buttercup, what are you doing while Bruce is flexing with your marrow?
She understood what he said last time about him not knowing what was going on, but the necklace, belongs to Astra, so she believes it belongs to a priestess of some sort, whether it's Astra herself or a different one. And so she just kind of sighs, sadly, because she just wanted to do what she could for Astra. So while the boys are having a flex off, what she decides to do is she goes over and sits next to Astra and starts dipping some rags in the cold water and like wiping down her face and wiping down her body to make sure that she stays moist and doesn't dry out.
Bruce takes great note of that.
All right, Victor, are you just going around town trying to cure everybody, or are you taking this news back to your allies?
I'm pretty much just gonna go ahead and administer the cure to the others as I can, the other townsfolk.
I will say that splashing the goop in this lady's eyes, as well as administering to her child, used your entire sample.
Oh
You're
no,
gonna have to
I'll have to
return.
go back and get more. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
you're gonna have to go back and get more if you're trying to distribute to everyone.
Yeah, all right, so I'll do that.
Okay. So as you
Once I
return,
get more, I'm gonna tell them about what I've discovered.
okay. So as you return, Bruce and the Marrow are like sort of flexing, and you go ahead and just tell the news to the others.
So this liquid seems to have completely cured the symptoms that the rather awful woman next door was suffering.
Buttercup laughs, and then her face looks, relieved for once. She's like, "Awesome! Please give Beatrice a dose."
Isn't Beatrice Clifton already cured?
She's not.
Okay.
She's better than she was, but she's definitely not cured.
All right. So yeah, I guess Beatrice is going to be the next person that I cultivate a dose for.
Okay. So you're just gonna again just like pull this goop out.
Yeah, I'm basically not trying to be violent with the contents of the orb. I'm trying to be as careful about extracting it as I can.
Okay. As you're giving Beatrice this orange goop, this Marrow is going to perk up with extreme interest and kind of like brushing past Bruce and Buttercup. It's going to like examine this goop very closely and kind of stick a finger in it.
I actually turn to him and ask if he's from. I mean, I ask if he's familiar with it, but I know that he can't really I don't know if he can understand me.
Okay. You sort of turn to him and like ask it. It's going to sort of like taste this goop on its finger and like blink a few times. And then looking around at all of you in complete shock, it's going to sort of like speak to you, Victor, in a language you don't recognize, but it's questioning. You all get the sense it's trying to figure out where Victor got this orange goop.
I'm gonna go to since I don't have a verbal way of communicating, I'm going to do my best to draw a facsimile of the great
Ooh, that's a good
avian that
idea.
we saw.
So you draw a picture of a giant bird, and I guess you've got this like bar-covered sphere just sitting on a table, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what this merfolk is going to do is seeing this sphere on the table and seeing the giant bird, it's going to come over to this sphere and kind of like taking a hand, it's going to grab some of this bark on the edge of the sphere and just like rip it off. And like a big chunk of bark kind of pulls away. And all of you guys are kind of alarmed at first, especially you, Victor. You're just like, oh fuck, you're fucking with my sample, you know? As this big bark chunk comes off, you guys all see this Marrow's kind of looking for something, and you see like a big hunk of this like thin orange skin beneath the bark, right? And at this, the Marrow is going to like kind of exclaim in surprise, blinking its multiple eyelids several times, and it's going to turn to you excitedly and like speak in Aquan. I think the language is Aquan, but I just got
Aquan, yeah.
Aquan, yeah. Aquan, is that it?
Buttercup, watching this,
Aquan.
looks over and then sees how excited he gets, and then she points to the substance and what he was looking at, and then points to Astro, you know, with the look of, would this help her?
Okay, so you're basically you're just pointing at it and then pointing to Ashta.
Yeah, to the things that he has in his hand.
Okay, so this thing, as you guys all watch, is going to start just like pulling this bark away and throwing it on the floor. And it's just like peeling this thing. And you're all kind of alarmed as this this Marrow sort of unceremoniously like takes this like treasure that the great avian gave you and just starts pulling the bark off and throwing it on the floor. And when it's
I'm
all
gonna
done,
watch. I'm probably gonna collect a sample of the bark, just for my own purposes. I want to
Okay.
analyze it a little further, but I'm
Okay.
going to watch there with just.
when it's all done, it's going to sort of hold up something you guys have actually all seen before. What is revealed beneath the bark is a bright orange merfolk sphere, the kind that they revered, that was in their inscriptions on the walls, and the same kind that you all saw in your vision when Ashta sort of brought you in to, you know, her line of priestesses. And it shows you this sphere that you all know is revered by this culture, and it's kind of exclaiming in a great excitement. It's trying to figure out like how you guys have this, and it doesn't seem to know what you're talking about with this bird.
Buttercup sees that, and she's like, instantly, she's all like, that motherfucking bird stole them.
It's going to come over to Ashta and like kind of like punching a hole in the top of the sphere with like a finger. It's going to just like fish out some goop and put it in her mouth, and after a few moments, Ashta's eyes are going to like snap open, and she kind of like sits upright in surprise. And kind of looks around the room at all of you.
Bruce flexes.
Fucking Bruce. Bruce flexes. What are y'all doing?
Hey man, he got a peacock for his girl, bro.
You got a peacock for his lady. Bruce, you look good.
He's.
You look
I
fucking
guess
good.
then he would like go over there and just. He wouldn't just like wrap his arms around her, but he would walk up to her slowly and, give her a little hug.
She's happy
Yeah,
to see
she
you.
is.
She actually gives you a smooch.
And then Bruce looks at the marrow and just gives him a thumbs up. And somewhere in the distance here, hey!
Hey, you got that
Do
Eagle
it.
Stone. Use it, bro.
Oh my god.
I can't do it on my end. It's gotta be Hunter. Yeah.
Dude, get it, Bruce. Okay. So Ashta is now awake, and she is very excited to see this orange sphere. You guys all now know exactly what this is, right? This is one of those merfolk spheres. You know it was revered. You don't know exactly what it does. Roll me insight checks, all three of you.
That's a crit.
Ooh.
That's a not for me.
Bruce, as far as you've observed, everyone that got, touched by this orange goop was just instantly healed of whatever it was they had.
Okay. Bruce is gonna look over at Victor and
You've
Buttercup.
seen,
I've got an idea, guys. I don't know if it'll work, but I want to go talk to that bird and get some answers.
And Buttercup looks at him and she's like, you know what? I don't blame you for that because he's shady.
I say we rescue the town folk first with our stolen blessing, and come back for the bird with more help from, I guess, Ashta's allies.
So, you know how that bird was able to get us to breathe underwater? I want him to bless me with a new gift. I want to talk to the merfolk. And if I have to give something up to do it, I will.
what do y'all think about that?
I'm a little leery of going back to the to that bird before we try and enlist help, but at the same time, I guess I'm the only one that's been able to communicate with these things so far. So, in any meaningful way, like, we have Ashta, but we can't communicate with her. But I was able to talk with the Pale Invaders. So that's the only reason I'm intrigued about about going to rescue our people first.
Do you say that in character? Okay.
Basically, yeah. I was like, I communicate that I was able to communicate with these other creatures that were summoned the night before during the storm, and just I would like help before confronting this large bird.
Okay.
You guys want to cure all the townspeople? Are y'all all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that Ashta is okay with us
That's-
using it for
yeah,
that
for
purpose
sure.
before we do that.
I think Bruce would suggest maybe the townspeople would trust her a little more if she cured them. It is her thing.
Is that? That is a very good point. We should walk with her. We should approach them with her at our side and have her administer the cure.
There's a marrow in here with you all, who Beatrice is eyeing very curiously and a little horrified.
But he doesn't appear hostile at all, correct? Okay.
He's not hostile, no. And Cecily is equally fascinated.
Let's take him
and
with us.
horrified.
So I think Bruce would look at his friends and say, "Hey guys, maybe I could start talking to the people, give them an introduction to Ashta and her friend, and then you guys bring her out, and she can cure the town. What do you guys think?"
Buttercup
seems
nods
a
at
fairly
that.
reasonable idea.
She's like, I agree with what Victor said, and let's do
Okay.
it.
So Bruce kind of indicates to his friends that don't speak his language to kind of hang it back for a second. He makes sure
That would be so much.
he makes sure to look back at his friends and the ones that do speak common, and he says, "Thanks, guys." Bruce climbs up on to the house itself, and he does a flip or two forward and
Shit.
punches the ground. Would you like for me to roll?
Oh my god. Roll me a performance check, dude. To get the attention of everyone around you with your dramatic
That's a crit.
display. Oh
Does it
my
work?
God. Oh my god. People fucking come
Can I
out
get the
of
hawk?
their
Can I get the hawk?
houses, dude. Yes, you absolutely earned.
Yes!
As you do a double flip and punch the ground with it just like cracks as your bone just like busts against that coral, and the coral just like crumbles and cracks a little bit as everyone kind of comes outside to see like what all the commotion's about, including the children.
Hey, everyone, gather around.
All eyes on you.
I want to talk to you for a second. I got a important, rousing speech to deliver. If everyone could just come over here. We have a cure for you guys, but I want to talk to you first.
Oh yeah, they're all circling around.
It's been a pretty weird day. A lot of weird shit happened. There was a clam. You lost friends. Part of your city. Comfort, security, happiness. Hey, I get it. I've been there too. But we're all gonna be okay. There's been a illness in this town. And my doctor friend in there, he gave up a whole lot so that we can heal all of you. I've got another friend in there, Buttercup. And she's as good as it gets. Those are my friends. And also inside, there are two people that you're not used to seeing. They're fish people, but they're good. And they want to help you guys too. So, show them the respect you would show me. Let my friend come out and heal you guys.
Hear a voice say, "Fish people," and another say, "Heal? What are you talking about, Mr. Fantana?"
So Bruce goes over to sweet dear little Nicole. And he says, "Hey, do you want to hear the story of Bruce Fantana?"
Hey, Mr. Fantana.
He looks at the guy next to Nicole and he says, "What do you know about Bruce?"
I heard he keeps a fist under his bandana, but I don't see it. Where's your bandana, Mr. Fantana?
I gave it to the second toughest person in this town. This little girl is standing next to you, and no one else.
She kind of blushes and kind of looks at the ground, kicks the dirt a little bit.
He looks at another guy and he says, "Hey, what do you know about Bruce Fantana?"
And another guy said, the person you talk to says, "I heard he once kicked a man onto a roof."
"I kicked a roof onto a man."
Someone else is like, "I believe it."
And then he looks at somebody he hasn't addressed yet, and he just kind of points and says, "Do you trust me?"
You point to this guy over here, who's a man you haven't quite seen yet, and he looks kind of well dressed, and he sort of steps up and he says, "In this situation, I'd be a fool not to trust one of my own."
"You mean like human? What do you mean by one of your own?"
Human.
So Bruce pulls a little, it's like a gold box. He pulls it out of his pocket. He never pulls it out, so this is a special moment. He says, "Everywhere I go, people want to know about Bruce Fantana, and I got tired of telling the story. So one day I saved a wizard, and he said, 'I'll give you anything.' And I said, 'Please just make me a box with my backstory in it, so I don't have to keep telling my story all the time.'" And Bruce sets it on the ground, and he opens up the box, and there's like a little light that pops out, and it's almost like a hologram Bruce Fantana.
Oh my god.
Like a magic mouth that tells
And
your backstory.
you guys hear in the background, "In a world full of darkness and unknown terrors, one man leads the charge. His name, Bruce Fantana. His mission, to rid the world of evil, one villain at a time. After his father was brutally murdered for refusing to help some local thugs, Bruce swore to bring justice to the menacing fools that had taken over his quiet village. He proved his courage to a nearby hermit, who took him in and showed him the ways of karate and also gymnastics. His only weapon? Himself. And that's all he needs. Combine the discipline, the timing, the power of gymnastics, and the explosive force of karate, and an all-new, powerful martial art is born, Gymkata. After a grueling training montage, Bruce sought his sweet, violent revenge, running through a gauntlet of foes. It wasn't easy, but his rage compelled him. Eventually, all that remained was their leader. Without his men and powerless to stop, the mighty fist of Bruce Fantana, the gang's boss escaped while Bruce saved a hot babe from a liger. Moving from town to town, Bruce hopes to run into the man who stole his father from him. His penchant for thwarting evil and eagerness to do good earned him local renown. He is a legend, the legend of Bruce Fantana. And then he looks at everyone and he says, "I'm gonna get to the bottom of all this with my friends in there. You protect them, you look out for them, you trust all of us." And then Bruce looks through the door that doesn't have a door, and just kind of motions for them to come out.
Okay. Bruce, this crowd is like just completely just rapt attention from everyone. The two merfolk are going to sort of like emerge, and there's this like unified like, it's like, oh, what are they? Like, I've never seen anything like it. And they're just like, are they monsters?
"Those are my friends." And then Bruce goes up to Ashta, and he wraps his hand around her hand.
He takes your hand, and the two of you together are quite a sight, as these townspeople are sort of like, aghast. And they kind of begin like murmuring amongst themselves in both like admiration and fear.
And he waits for Buttercup and Vic as well. "Come on out, guys."
Victor is going to follow outside with the large sphere, I guess, carrying the sphere for Ashta and the marrow, or if the marrow is carrying it, I guess we don't need to.
Whoever has it, I don't know who has it.
I'm going to come out carrying the sphere, and
And
You there?
do what? I'm sorry.
Did this Discord pop out?
Oh, what's up?
Maybe.
Did I disconnect?
Yeah, what are you doing? You walk outside with the sphere and what?
And I walk up next to Ashta, and I'm going to very just calmly just announce to the people, our allies have brought this cure to us. They mean to save us from what is happening amongst all of us. They mean to save us from the evils plaguing this town.
Between between your notoriety, Victor, as the man who amputated Martin's leg, and Bruce Fantana as this like mythical human being, and Buttercup, who was witnessed carrying the enchanted girl, the Clifton girl, out of the house while everyone watched. The three of you are sort of like standing as like it's a sight. It's a sight to see you all. It's like something out of a painting. And these two merfolk, almost alien in their beauty in Ashta's case, and their horror in the case of the Marrow. They sort of like calmly look about the town. And Victor, you're holding the cure? Are you wanting to dish it out like you had said earlier, or no? You want to hold on to
I
it?
will
for
hold it so that Ashta can dish it out to.
now? Oh, that's right.
to
Okay.
them.
All right. So at this, Ashta is going to sort of like dip a fingertip into like this sphere that you have, and just sort of like hold it out for the first recipient. But Victor, you know they're going to have to either like taste it, or put it in their eye, or like a wound, or some way to get it into their system. So a lot of them are very just like, ooh, like this is super weird because these things are basically like fucking aliens.
This is something that must be ingested, so just. I know this seems strange, believe me, but we must do what needs to be done to protect all of us.
So as this is happening, right, as these are all sort of getting dished out, you suddenly all hear a shriek, and everyone kind of turns and looks to see like one of the figures here in the back of the crowd sort of pointing towards this ice wall. And on the other side of the ice wall are these dark silhouettes. And she points towards the wall and she says, "What? What are those things? They've come back. It's the things from last night." And you all watch as these silhouettes sort of like kind of press their hands up against the ice, and they're sort of like just kind of probing and feeling the ice.
I kind of look at Ashta before offering the sphere to the Marrow for safekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to after giving the sphere over to one of the Marrow, I'm going to look around at the townsfolk and just very.
I think you cut out again.
Sorry.
So I'm going to look around at the townsfolk and just very calmly, I will do something. I'm about to do something that will frankly terrify some of you, but I do it only for your protection. And I'm going to go ahead and change into Cesarthic in front of all of these people outside.
Zarthic, roll me a performance check at advantage. as you shift into this like monstrous looking creature.
Jesus. These rolls hate me tonight.
Okay. Well, in this case, it's kind of working in your favor, as with a 6, everyone around you is astounded. But they're at this, like, a lot of them just go kind of into shock seeing this, right? Because and all of you watching this in broad daylight, it is a gruesome transformation. In fact, let me see. Do I have I think I might actually even have audio for this. Let me give you this here.
Some sounds of bone crunching.
Yeah, it's a man brutally transforming into a werewolf.
Nice.
That's an oddly specific sound effect, I'm not gonna lie.
It keeps going. Nice.
I will say it does only take 6 seconds. It's a round.
That's what it sounds like.
Bruce looks at
There you
all the
have it.
homies and he says, "It's cool. He's done this before."
So, with the brilliant display, that nat 20, Bruce, that you got earlier, my mind is terribly loud. Everyone is kind of taking comfort at all of you guys here, and while they all do kind of go into shock seeing this victor, none of them react very drastically, but they're all just stunned between seeing these merfolk, seeing these things on the other side of the ice, being trapped within this ice in the first place, their entire hometown being gone, and watching a man transform into a monster. All at the same time.
Just might as well compound the traumas all at once, just so it's in a
How's
nice
little
little
Nicole
package.
doing?
They're all in shock. All of them are in shock. They're coping. You know, nobody is doing anything crazy because all of you have essentially taken charge of the situation, and they're kind of all just like nodding and and like going along with what's happening here. But no, Victor turning into Cesarthic is horrifying for all of them. And these Pale
So
Invaders are still just kind of like probing this wall and trying to like figure out what the nature of this
so
thing is.
Cesarthic is gonna look around at all of the people, and in common is just very loudly just go inside.
Yeah.
Just
At this, they're all gonna like shriek and just turn and flee into their homes.
good.
So no, fuck that. Actually, there's not really anywhere for a lot of these sick people to be. So a lot of them are gonna have to rush past you to get into the house, and they're just like,
That's fine.
okay.
He doesn't make any moves towards any of them. Just all of them like run past him and just very calmly just kind of walks through the
You
crowd
sure you don't
towards
want to
the
take an
ice.
attack of opportunity?
Yes, I'm not gonna brutalize these people.
Your
Todd.
day is even worse now.
Haha! PTSD.
At this, Buttercup very carefully helps Asha and the Marrow into what they had deemed the sick house, which is the Clifton house, so that way she can still administer the cure there. Well, she figures Cesarthic is going to go and communicate with the Pale people.
So you're bringing them inside. Ashta is
Yeah.
actually going to stay outside. She is very curious about these people at the wall here, but the marrow is bound by your will, and it is going to return inside with you. So you're
Okay.
basically healing everyone, Buttercup?
Yes.
Okay. I want to point out if you heal everyone, there will be 2 doses left of this cure all.
She's going to save that to the side for Victor so that way he can have more samples and stuff like that to see if he could potentially make the concoction
Is that cool with
while
all of
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
2 samples left.
That might be a good
Alright.
spot for us to take a quick break. What do you guys think? Okay.
I'm cool with that.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back in about 5 minutes or so, and we'll have some more Dungeons and Dragons for you. And we're back. What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We're going to do some more Nordstead Point. We've had an amazing RP session, and I'm very happy and very lucky to be playing with such great players and a wonderful DM. If you want to enhance your tabletop play, check out the Ad Proficiency podcast at nerdjamtv.com. Also, we're going to be doing our Christmas in July special. It's a 24-hour live stream. Starts tomorrow at midnight. So we have less than 24 hours before the 24 hours. So that's exciting. We've got all kinds of cool stuff lined up. You can check out our website for more information or our Facebook page. We've got a whole schedule lined up for you. And Hunter, why don't you take us back?
Welcome back, everybody. Basically, when we left off, there were a number of these Pale Invaders just kind of hanging out outside the barrier here, kind of just probing the way around all that ice there. And it was creeping out all the villagers, and that was when Victor chose to shift into Cesarthic in front of everybody. Oops. There we go. But because of the excellent RP you guys have all thrown down, they all coped with the situation fairly well and all ran inside. Buttercup is currently healing everyone, leaving you all with only 2 of the cure-all doses left. Ashta, Bruce, and Cesarthic, you are all outside near the Pale Invaders.
Bruce is going to look over at Cesarthic, and he's going to say, "Hey, are you thinking what I'm thinking?"
He just kind of looks at Bruce for a second and just, we fight.
Let's do it. Does Bruce understand how much control he has over this ice wall?
I mean, the ice wall has never been a problem for you. Are you trying to do any particular thing with the ice wall?
Would Bruce feel like he could walk up to the wall, open it up, let one of them through, and then immediately close it?
It's not a matter of you being able to open the ice wall. It's more like when your flesh makes contact with the wall, the ice just like caves around you and then seals up. So it's like you can slip through this wall per se, but it like tightly just like passes around your body.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure. How high up is it? Yeah.
The wall? It encapsulates the top. You cannot currently see like the icy form of like Ashta pointing her finger towards the sky right now, but
Gotcha.
you know it's above you because you saw it from the cliffside.
Okay. Hey, Cesar, I think you think I should just let him in?
He just says, I think, just kind of nods slowly and gets ready. Doesn't seem to do anything else.
Okay. Bruce is gonna go touch the wall and see if he can open it up. His goal is to close it as soon as one of them walks through. So he would
Touch the wall, but you cannot open it up. It's just that your fingertips and your hand just sort of like slide into the wall.
Oh,
and
I
pass
see.
Through the ice.
Okay, Bruce is gonna walk the fuck out there.
Okay, so you just like slide right through the ice.
On seeing this, I'm gonna try and follow.
Okay. So Zarthik, as you do the same, you just sort of like slide through the ice. And Ashta actually is going to follow you as well. And this is going to cause all of the Pale Invaders to sort of like very curiously kind of come over here. Make their way around the ice. This one's actually not able to get that close. It's gonna watch.
Hey guys, I'm Bruce Fantana. Maybe you've heard of me.
You guys are, as Bruce sort of speaks to it, they are like very rapidly, like their bodies are sort of like flickering various colors and lights amongst each other, and they're all sort of like talking to each other kind of silently with these flashing lights. And Cesarthic, you do hear one of them kind of in your thoughts question, like, you are the one from before.
And just it Zarthic speaks back in deep speech like,
Your vitamins are on the counter.
Eddie, did you cut out?
I just said, sorry, where did you stop doing that?
Says in deep speech. dot 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 dot.
Oh, it says in deep speech, we protect this town.
Can I hear Cesarthic communicating, or is it all like telepathy?
It's all
Okay.
telepathy.
So Bruce doesn't know they're having a conversation. Bruce is gonna flex. It's universal.
Hey, the language of the flex, he's right, is well understood.
Bruce busts a flex. Bruce, roll me a performance
3.
check, please.
Oh, inspiration.
Just ask Mr. Torg.
That's a lot better. It's 11.
Wow. Okay. Okay. It's not bad. These Pale Invaders kind of like taking this in, Bruce. They're all kind of taken aback. They're very surprised at your physique. It's very unusual. Roll me an insight check, all of you.
Even me?
I'm sorry, not you. You're inside healing everyone? Would you like to come out? I would say you're aware of the situation at this point.
Yeah, she's aware of what's going on. She's finishing up giving the last of the doses to everyone, and then turns to the Miro to pretty much ask if he wants to join her, because if not, she's gonna let him go on his merry way.
If he wants to join you,
Yes.
he does. Yes, he is beholden to you. And he says something in a language you don't recognize, but he's gesturing towards your necklace. Roll me an insight check, Buttercup.
Oh, that is so much better than before.
That's pretty good. You are being treated with respect.
You're
For
like
having
Tony
this
Soprano.
necklace. For wearing this necklace, like Tony Soprano.
You're the boss.
So she
Hey.
nods, and she double checks on everybody, and then offers pretty much her shoulder to try to help the Marrow, so that way they can go join the others across the ice. So that way he's not dragging his scaly body everywhere and
So
hurting himself.
you're just going to like through the wall here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're actually gonna pop out behind these invaders, and they're very like kind of taken aback to see this. Let me see. What did you guys get on those insight checks? 15 and a 6. Okay, so Bruce.
I got nothing.
Bruce, you notice it. They are very interested in you in particular. And as you flex, they all kind of like they take note of it, and they're flashing very rapidly to one another.
Bruce is going to point at them and kind of like gesture for them to flex too.
Roll me a persuasion check to
Ooh,
get
what
this
is
point
Bruce
across.
Fantana's persuasion?
Roll your jelly muscles,
It's a
squishy
0.
men.
1d20.
I would point out they're very tall
11.
and like kind of lanky. 11.
And jellyfish.
they're not quite sure what you're trying to get them to do. One of them like kind of vaguely imitates your motions, like kind of confusing
Yeah,
what
Bruce
you're
Bruce
asking.
points at him and just like keeps like flexing like
It kind of vaguely imitates you as long as you hold it, and in that time you can see like they seem to be very physically weak as far as their upper body goes, but just eyeballing those tentacles on the bottom half, those tentacles actually look pretty meaty and pretty strong. Show you guys another close up of these things.
Yikes. Okay. Um
All right, Cesarthic, what are you doing? They have asked you what you are. They have noted that you are from before. All of you guys are going to see like them sort of conversing with Ashta, and Ashta is going to sort of like be speaking, but as she's speaking, she's sort of like almost kind of like singing certain like notes, and in return they're like flashing lights at her, and she's kind of like singing various notes in return. She's not like speaking, she's like singing at them.
Am I able to understand any of this?
It's not like an open conversation, no. It's just
Okay,
silence to
yeah.
use Cesarthic. But they seem to be communicating with Ashta. However, Cesarthic, at this point, you know if you'd like to communicate them, you can directly like speak to one of them. Uh, as Buttercup and the Marrow reemerge and they're sort of like taken aback, they're going to sort of ask you, Cesarthic, kind of like all kind of turning and facing you, like why you haven't gone to the bottom of the abyss. Why didn't you allow yourself to be swallowed by that giant clam? They just don't understand. You sense like they genuinely don't understand why you didn't do that. Like
Um,
why be here?
he points at Ashta and kind of points at the eye structure, before saying that we were not here.
At this, the lights are going to like flicker like very rapidly amongst themselves. Buttercup, this invader in front of you is going to sort of like lean over and like just sort of like assess you up close, and you see it's just like observing you, but it's like inside your bubble. It's like really really close. Roll me an insight check, Buttercup.
Eh?
Okay. Okay, you don't notice it, but it does make you uncomfortable that this thing is like looming so close to you.
She's
But
definitely uncomfortable, but she doesn't back up. Instead, she looks up at him and then kind of like bows her head respectfully towards it.
I will say that you know the marrow beside you is quite uncomfortable, and it is going to speak in its language to these pale invaders who do not respond.
She kind of takes a step closer to the marrow and still holding on to him as best as she can, so that way he's not harming himself, and is just watching what's going on because she doesn't understand what's happening. But
Okay.
she's very much so making herself, appear not threatening in any way.
All right. One of these pale invaders is going to kind of like lean forward and like assess you, Bruce, very carefully. And one of the other pale invaders is going to ask Cesarthic what Bruce is.
So Zarthik just kind of looks at them and just says what just one word, just hero, before looking back at Bruce.
They receive it and like flash to each other, and then they respond to you, Cesarthic. They don't understand why he's so much more developed than other humans.
Not even Bruce understands.
And you can see them as they're discussing Bruce. At this point, Zarthik, you kind of know what you're looking at. They are discussing Bruce as they like flash amongst themselves, and all of them kind of turn and like look at Bruce. And like this invader that's like peering in your face, Buttercup, sort of like straightens up and is like flashing back at these other pale invaders, and then it too is going to turn and look at Bruce. The one closest to Ashta is going to begin speaking to Ashta, and then it's going to look back at you, Bruce.
Bruce is going to look at Ashta. How does she appear?
Ashta looks nervous. Roll me an insight check, Bruce.
19.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Okay. Ashta looks nervous, but she is putting on a front so that she doesn't. She looks nervous, but she's clearly trying not to look nervous, right? And looking at her, Bruce, you can tell she's very uncomfortable. She doesn't know what these things are. They are speaking to her, and they have said something to her that seems to upset her and put her very much like at unease. She's very uneasy.
Bruce is gonna.
They seem
Sorry.
to they seem to have told her something that she
And Bruce
does
picks
not
up on
like.
all those.
Not that like she's offended by it, but she is worried about it.
Bruce is gonna look at Cesarthic and say, "You thinking what I'm thinking?"
Zarthik just kind of cocks his head before looking back at the images at the Pale Invaders, and to communicate with them, kind of flashes an image. I guess a montage of Bruce Fantana basically just punching the shit out of
Yeah.
various creatures. The shark that we've come across, this everything, just basically showing that what he can do.
I like it. You just send him a YouTube link to the Adventures of Bruce Fantana, Volume 1.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so you're
Volume 1
basically
and Volume 2.
you're basically
need Volume
hyping
2
up
in there.
Bruce to like all
Yeah.
of these Pale Invaders.
Pretty much, yeah. And then repeating the word hero.
Okay. All of these Pale Invaders are going to flash amongst themselves, like all kind of speaking to each other. And they're going to ask you, like, once again, like, come down to the bottom of the abyss. Like, join us. Be one with us. And again, they just want to know, like, why haven't you come down to the bottom? Like, yes, you indicated it was because of Ashta, right? But they
I
don't
indicated that it was
understand, like, why you aren't trying to go down there right now.
Buttercup kind of looks at them. She doesn't know necessarily what's going on. But she's remembering, the promise she made, and she speaks out loud. I'm sorry. I had to take care of some patients. They were sick.
I go ahead and show an image of the sick, and then the orange orb, and then them looking healthier after receiving the stuff from the orb.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, as you
And we're
YouTube
there.
link them, the image of the orange orb, they are all going to go berserk. Not in the sense that they're just like going to just madly attack you, but they are rapidly, furiously, like flashing one another. They are reacting very obviously to that particular image, Cesarthic, just based on the timing. They're going crazy. the image that you showed them, who did it show possessing the orange orb? Ashta?
It actually showed Victor holding the orb.
Ooh, and Victor's
Victor?
not there. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. All right. At this, the Pale Invaders are going to inquire about the whereabouts of Victor. Where is Victor right now? Who is this person, and how can he be located, and how can he be obtained? You sense like a sort of like hunger to the questioning, a desperation.
Zarthik just seems obviously seems pleased with this turn of events and just looks at them and says safe. They all as they ask what about Victor, he just replies that he is safe.
Okay. You just tell them
Buttercup.
safe.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
They are going to flash to one another, and after a moment, one of them is going to leap at you and make a grapple attempt. Go ahead and roll me an athletics check. And at this, can I get everyone to roll me
let's
initiative,
go.
please?
What the hell is that advantage 30 or that initiative 32?
I don't know.
Plus 13. What the fuck?
That's the grapple attempt, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, so you are not grappled, but this thing clearly like leaps at you in like kind of a desperate attempt to try and grab you. All right, let's go ahead and get some initiative rolled.
Buttercup's, watching that, she kind of puts the marrow kind of like behind her so that way he could still hold himself up. But she is very obviously, taking the stance of, I'm going to protect him.
Okay. Hold. From the top, we've just got Bruce Fantana. Go get him, Bruce.
I thought Buttercup had like a 32. Oh yeah.
Did she have a 32? I don't see her anywhere on here.
That's what it says.
Yeah, it does.
Mine
She has a
disappeared too, I
32. There you go. 33, that'll work. Okay, go ahead and go get him, Buttercup.
How does Buttercup have a plus 14?
Because I'm awesome. Dun, 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 dun.
Plus 4. Do you have alert? How is that?
I'm
don't
looking.
know.
I'm just looking at the roll right now.
Look at your character sheet.
I don't get it, but,
Oh dear. That was way higher than it should be. I don't think you should have any of those. Do you have alert?
I don't. You know what? Let's double check.
No, you don't have the alert.
Bruce
feed.
does.
What is her feat? What is your feat, Buttercup?
Let me pull up the one that I have. Give me just a second. Because
Okay.
it's hard to read that one in
While,
the.
while you look that up, we'll go ahead and say you go first. What would you like to do?
She has the marrow behind her, and what she does is she goes ahead and like preps an arrow just in case, but she doesn't do anything. She's trying to see what's going on first.
You like to ready in action then?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, if one of them attacks, you want to attack or something like that. You do
Yeah.
see one of them lunge at Zarthik and attempt to like wrap around it with its like tentacular legs.
Where would my feet go? I have apothecary background.
Don't worry too much about your feet.
I don't know.
We'll just go ahead and say like you have the initiative for now. But you're just readying an action to attack whoever does something.
Yeah, while trying to protect the marrow and keeping an eye on Astra as well from where she's at.
Okay. So if anything attacks the marrow or Ashta, you will attack it. That's your ready action.
Yes.
All right, Bruce. What would you like to do? You're
Okay,
up
so
next.
Bruce Fantana.
This thing is like lunging around Zarthic here.
Bruce is gonna go punch him twice. He's not gonna use a key point, but he's gonna punch him twice.
All right, go ahead and roll it up. Are you moving anywhere, or are you just punching?
Can I punch from where I
you're
stand? Okay.
You can. Okay.
My button's not showing up for some reason. None of the buttons are showing up. Weird.
Just be roll 20s, being slow.
Would it be on my character sheet?
Yeah, I mean, it should be on your character sheet. If you go hit your character sheet and go to the third tab, you should have your button. In there for
Oh,
your
under
punches.
skills? No, skills.
Under attributes and abilities
Layout,
on
man,
the
this
third
is
tab.
Nice.
So you see there's a bio and info tab, there's a character sheet tab, and then there's an
Oh, but
attributes and
this
abilities
sheet's
tab.
kind of different. It's a little weird.
If you go to the attributes and abilities tab, he
Thank
should
you
have
for
your
the
buttons
homies
on
watching right now.
Finkel's watching for sure. Watching me struggle.
there. Hey, Finkel.
PT.
Here, I'm gonna reload roll 20 real quick.
Yeah. If something janky is happening, it's
Yeah.
probably
Well, it's
roll
also
20.
not updating in the stream either, so I think roll 20 is just being weird.
Ah,
He's just being weird. That's all.
who Finkel being weird? I mean, that's normal.
Finkel, don't
Just
take
kidding,
that.
Finkel. I love you, buddy.
Don't get.
I love you, buddy.
tilted.
21 to hit and a 13 to hit.
The fact that we have a
Wow.
name
Oh
for it.
yeah. So for 9 fucking damage, you will absolutely just deck this thing, and your fist will just like sink in, and you feel like the crunching of thin bones beneath your knuckles, as the rib cage just kind of caves where you punch it. And like it doesn't really have like a mouth, but you see this creature just like buckle over forward as you punch it in the side.
Word.
All right.
So
anything
Bruce
else your
actually
turn?
wants to stand between Ashta and this Pale Invader if possible. And
Okay,
that's the end of my
go
turn.
for it. Alright, so next up is going to be this Pale Invader, which is also going to leap at Zarthic and attempt to grapple it. Yeesh, again, fumbling. Can you roll me an athletics check? That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so
There it
Zarthic-
is. Hey, I'm good at other things, but not that.
That's okay. So Zarthic, your movement is now set to 0 as this Pale Invader together with this other one, the two of them are going to just leap off into this water and attempt to swim down with you. And you guys are going to go about 15 feet under the water. Alright. Next up is the Marrow, who is going to defensively put itself between you, between you, Buttercup, and this other Pale Invader, and it is going to sort of like slap its hand against the ice, and as it like lifts its hand, like this long coral sphere just grows out of the ice, and it's going to sort of like hoist this sphere, and it too is going to ready in action against anything that you attack, Buttercup. Behind it are 2 more Pale Invaders. Okay. So this one here, Bruce, you just punched one of them. The one right in front of you is going to raise a silvery hand, and his light patterns are going to shiver. Can you roll me a DC 15
Fuck.
Wisdom save?
Sure. Can I or will I? I got a +3.
I believe in you. Oof. So, as it raises this like long, slender hand in your direction, Bruce, after you like basically punched its homie here, you're going to take 7 psychic damage and suffer 10 movement speed until the start of your
I can
next
handle that.
turn. As your mind is just like racked by a migraine.
That could have been worse.
I don't know what your wisdom save is, but like, shouldn't you be proficient in a wisdom save as a monk?
I don't think so actually.
He has to be a certain level.
Yeah,
in a
I've
month
got.
to do it.
Oh,
I think they
okay.
get it.
Yeah,
at,
I've
like,
got strength
6
and
or
dex.
7. Yeah, they start off with 2 and they get a 3rd somewhere along the line. I don't know where that is.
That's weird that they don't get a mental save.
I definitely. I
They
100.
do.
I 100.
They do.
Imagine
Like
if I
at
had
6 or
saved my
7.
inspiration for that roll and not the flex from before.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's
true.
you live and you learn. All right.
All right. So next up is this Pale Invader. Beside you, Buttercup. It seeing like this marrow and you sort of like defensively like holding up against it, it's going to sort of like slowly like back off and then like kind of look around and then dive sideways into the water and swim down after Cesarthic and the other 2 Pale Invaders. Alright. Everyone left on the surface, go ahead and roll initiative. Go ahead and roll me initiative as well, Cesarthic.
I mean, I never got my turn this initiative pass.
Oh, did you never get your turn? Where
No.
were you?
I was at like
It's because I took you off the map. Actually,
Yeah.
no, I don't. Oh, you got a 3. You were last.
Yeah.
Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead and go now before we start this next turn. What would you like to do, Cesarthic?
all right. So
You're currently-
I'm going. I
you're-
have 2 of them on me. I'm gonna poison spray the both of them.
Okay, there's 2 of them on you, and there is 1 more who just jumped in the water. Okay, and you said you're poison spraying them?
I meant acid splash. My bad, because there's 2 in range. I wanted to splash them,
That's fine. That makes perfect sense.
and then I'm going to. So that's my bonus action, and then I'm going to shoot spines at the one like that is holding me.
Okay, they rolled a 7 and an 11. What's your what's your save?
My save on the acid splash is 14.
14. All right. How much damage did you deal with that?
4.
4. Very nice. Okay, so each of them are going to take 4 damage. Let me go ahead and just put them on screen so you know what you're looking at here.
And then
You guys are all kind of underwater down here in the corner. They're each going to take 4, and
the
That's-
spine attack as well.
that spine is actually not going to hit. It's going to shoot wildly.
Okay, and then can I still make an escape at the end of my turn?
Escape.
Like from
So
the
you're trying to
grapple?
break the grapple? So to
Yes.
break a grapple, you have to either use force movement from a shove attack, or you could use an opposed grapple check to try and make another grapple check to escape from it. But the 3 of
Alrighty.
them are currently dragging you downwards into the abyss below. You're only about 15 feet underwater right now.
I mean, I can breathe, but I still want to try and break their grapple.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're fine. They don't know that, but you're fine. But yes, unfortunately, no grapple break because that takes an action, or a shove attack, which also takes an action, unless you're a monk like Bruce. I don't, or maybe only pugilists get that. I don't know. All right, go ahead and reroll initiative, everyone, if you haven't done so already. So from the top, we have Bruce Fantana with a 28. What would you like to do, Mr. Fantana? You just got racked by a migraine by the.
Oh, I've got a
Pale Invader.
22, so I think Buttercup's first.
22. I have a 28 for you. Just delete that then. Weird. Okay, go ahead and go first, Buttercup.
She notices the one that dove away, and so she looks at the marrow confused and just pulls back her arrow and points it at the Pale Invader that's in front of Ostya and Bruce, readying just in case, because no harm's going to come to them, while, worriedly looking over at the side to see, if she can see Cesarthic at all.
What, Buttercup? Technically, this Pale Invader, by raising its hand, attacked Bruce. Would you like to have attacked it during that moment?
Yes.
Since you had readied an action? Okay, in that case, both you and the marrow can attack. It's going to go ahead and roll this at advantage because you're flanking.
Nice.
Dealing 4 damage. And go ahead and roll your attack at advantage. Wow.
Nice.
Oh my god.
And I could do my Gloomstalker stuff, so I could do that and then a sneak attack to that?
Yeah,
she has
with the
advantage,
first
yeah.
turn. That's correct, yeah, and you have advantage. So that will deal 6 damage, plus your sneak attack. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. At this point, it is looking quite seriously...
What about your D8 for Gloomstalker?
Oh, do I roll a
That's
d8?
right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I need to just make you a button. Let me just... Damn it, I need to remember to do that.
No worries, buddy.
It will be helpful. Wow, okay, another 4 damage. Good lord. Okay, it is looking quite seriously wounded.
I bet the marrow feels like a fucking sissy for only dealing 4 damage. That's some Darren shit.
It really is. Okay, so next up is what are we looking at?
It's your boy.
I'm looking at 2 Bruces. Okay,
I will say that I go before the marrow. I rolled my initiative late.
okay.
So
let
it's
me,
sorted.
Let me resort. There you go.
There we go.
I got you.
Bruce Fantana? It's on Bruce.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bruce, you're up first. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were asking. Yeah, you're
So
totally
there
up
are
first.
currently 2 Pale Invaders that have Cesarthic grappled.
There are 2 that have it grappled, and there was 1 more in the water.
Would it be possible for Bruce to use Step of the Wind, like spend a key point, and then try to propel himself towards Cesarthic and the Pale Invaders and try to break them up?
To dive with Step of the Wind? Absolutely. Excellent use of Step of the Wind. So you are diving after him. I will say, like, with Step of the Wind, you can dive straight
Cool.
to them if you like, with a
Yeah.
little bit of momentum.
Let's do that. Fist in the air, feels the energy propel him forwards from his feet, and jettisons like a fucking torpedo right at Cesarthic and the Pale Invaders.
Also, I don't mean to be rude, but did the creature make another strength check? I guess after it grappled me to move me, because grapple just reduces my speed to 0. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean it can move with me.
Yes, it actually does mean the creature can still move with you. It does move at half speed, but it is able to move you. And these things are very good at moving through water. You, however, are not able to move while you are grappled. And while you're grappled, it brings you with it. That's just 5th edition. That's not me.
I don't see that on the grappled condition. I'm just saying that I can be moved. I see that my condition my grappled speed becomes 0, but I don't see that I can be moved.
I pinky promise that is how that works. If you move, it is not forced movement, it is regular movement, and it moves you with it, but that is not a you moving with it is not a condition that is reflected in the definition of the grapple condition. It is a rule that is like found in the DMG. Does that make sense? I pinky
Yes.
promise I'm not cheating you. I know how this situation works. Just trust me.
But they also move half speed.
They do move half speed. That is correct.
So
right now you're only about 15 feet under the water.
So 5 feet off the thing and then 20 feet into the water?
I would encourage you not to do math, as that's kind of like a metagamey thing.
Well, it
But-
does pertain to abilities, to things that I can do. That's
I
why
will
I'm
say
doing
I will
that.
say that you are 15 feet under the surface of the water. Are you asking how far you are from this thing?
I'm asking how far I am underwater because it does matter.
Yes, you
Like,
are 15 feet under the surface.
Okay, so it moved 5 feet above water and 15 feet under. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had all of its movement right so that I have things correctly in my head.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so does that bring us to the Pale Invader in front of Bruce? I believe that it does.
Did Bruce did
this
Bruce
thing-
break up the grapple with the step of the wind?
Oh, that's right. You're diving down there. Go ahead and roll me an athletics check at advantage because you're using Step the Wind, or acrobatics if you'd rather use acrobatics.
Definitely.
You are able to do that.
That's
as
a
well.
+7.
Just so you know, when you're first getting grappled, it's athletics to athletics, but when you're trying to escape a grapple, you have the choice of using acrobatics. It's a weird rule thing. But you
It's
can do.
19.
Wow.
You said at advantage,
Oh
right?
yeah, so with a 9.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, at advantage. Yeah, so with a 10, you easily dive away, Bruce, and you're able to fly towards these underwater opponents who are sort of grappling Cesarthic and deliver a punch, if you like, with a d6 of momentum.
It's a 4. What a reasonable roll.
4. Very nice. Go ahead and roll that attack.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice.
Holy
Let's
fucking
go.
shit. Okay. So that's going to do 8 plus 4, 12 plus an additional 4, 16 points
yeah.
of damage. Bruce, as you punch through the surface of its skin, crush its rib cage, and your fist actually buries itself into its chest cavity. It now has an open wound. Your fist has punched a hole into the chest of one of these Pale Invaders. It is going to immediately let go of Cesarthic and attempt to flee with his life for chance it gets. Is there anything else you'd like to do your turn? That was only your first attack.
Yeah, so bonus, can I punch him again? Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Roll it up.
13 to hit.
Unfortunately, that will not hit. It is squirming and writhing, trying to like escape.
I do appreciate it that you sound as sad as I feel when you tell me these things. You didn't kill him, sorry. That's all good.
Yeah,
It's all
sorry, man. All right. Okay. So, next up is the Marrow. It's going to interpose itself between the two of you and stab again at this Pale Invader. Wow. Actually
Nice.
finishing it off. Very nicely done.
It's dead, Jim.
Okay. Very good job, Buttercup. Your minion has like effectively killed for you.
Dope.
Alright, so next up are the two Pale Invaders. The one immediately next to you, Bruce, is going to disengage and dart downward into the deep depths, effectively escaping.
Okay.
It is not trying to die here. The Pale Invader next to you, this one guy who's just fucking chilling up here observing this whole thing, is actually going to continue observing and make a ready to action. The one grappling you, Cesarthic, is also going to disengage and it's going to dive away, seeing Bruce like dive in here and basically punch a hole in the guy next to him. And finally, this last guy next to you, seeing the other two dart away, is also going to disengage. And get the hell out of here before.
Put on a
it gets
clinic,
killed.
guys. Good work.
Do I not get my turn? I had a
Cesarthic,
17.
I see you have a 17, dude. Oh, you're rolling late. That's what's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Pinche Eddie. All right. So
I
technically,
told
guess...
you I did.
My bad. Okay, so technically, I guess both these guys are still back up here. Actually, I guess all three of these guys, if you have a 17. So let me stick them back on here. Boop. Go ahead and go first. You are currently not grappled, but there is
Okay.
one like who's about to attempt to grapple you.
So they should be within 5 feet of each other, so I'm going to Acid Splash.
Nice.
Yes, go ahead.
And
Okay,
then I'm
very
going
nice.
to Spines another one.
It's a 12 and 11. Wow. Holy shit. Okay.
And if I hit that one, so that's going to be 9.
Punch that. Wow, holy shit. So this one is very severely hurt. This other one here is actually fucking dead, because that's the one that Bruce just dived
Nice.
in and punched.
I make sure to yell at them that just, you will
Interesting.
not take me.
So you guys have a couple of corpses now. That was unexpected.
You didn't think we'd kill
Alright.
anything?
Before they yell, before they leave, I make sure to yell at them that they,
He's
in
good.
deep speech, that they will not take me.
They will not take you. All right, and that spine is fired at who? This last guy, I guess.
Yeah.
Ouch! And just sort of bursts inside him. All right, yeah, he's gonna fucking. These two guys are getting the fuck out of here. They don't want any of that business. All right, go ahead and re-roll. Actually, no, that's pretty much it. They're all done. This last.
Did Eddie
Pale
get an
Invader-
opportunity attack? No, they disengaged. God damn it. God damn
We're
it.
disengaged,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, they ain't trying to die, dude. This last Pale Invader who's been observing the whole thing is going to like quietly slip into the water here. Doesn't dive in like the others, it just like sort of slides into the water quietly. And it too is going to turn upside down and like squid itself away into the deep depths. Depths.
So with
But
Cesarthix,
What do you say? I'm sorry.
I kind of want to follow as best I can, like with that last one. I'm what Cesarthix is wanting to hunt these things down.
Cesarthic. You go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it starts to get dark around you. And after a while, you realize you're very far from anyone who can help you. Do you want to continue chasing after them?
Can Bruce go with him? I feel like Bruce would follow him.
Bruce, make me a let me see. Make me a Constitution save to hold your breath.
Can we
as
breathe
you,
under
like,
water?
free dive. You can, if you like. Go ahead, Bruce. You want to try and use that spell?
Oh, it's a spell.
Go right ahead. No, yeah, it's a spell. It maintains concentration. Would
Yeah.
you like to use it now? All right, Bruce. You use a spell creating air around you from a 15-foot radius. As all the water expands from around you, you drop into a free fall as the water beneath you gives way to air and you begin like flying, descending deeper and deeper into the water. You are dropping dangerously low into this abyss
Do I see
very quickly
Cesarthic?
because you're in free fall. You pass Cesarthic early on, and Cesarthic, you see Bruce just fly past you. You're not sure how he's descending so quickly, but you do see a giant bubble around him, which I guess could
Does that mean
do
I could
that for
potentially
you.
catch up to the dudes?
You could potentially catch up to the dudes. Yeah, is that what you're
How
gonna do?
long have I been swimming already?
Make me an
Oh
intelligence
no.
check, Bruce.
That can't be good.
Let's see. In 6 seconds, I'm gonna say you reach full speed. We're gonna say you drop about.
16.
And how far can you fall into free fall in 6 seconds? I want to say that's pretty fucking far.
So, if
16.
he hits terminal velocity in 6 seconds, sorry, let me do some math real fast.
So here's what I want to point out about this, Bruce. The thing about creating air around you is it creates air beneath you, which gives you nothing to stand on. So you're going to fall until you hit something to stand on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you are free falling through the water into this abyss, which will increase the pressure of the water on you as you fall deeper and
Oh
deeper
shit.
into it.
Magic.
I am going to say that this is the first time, Bruce, that it begins to dawn on one of you guys in the party that you will not be able to descend into this abyss unless you're either extremely careful and you never lose concentration on your spell, because losing concentration would basically mean like the water just collapses in on you, or you find a way to secure your concentration.
Do I just need to concentrate? Oh,
Well,
you're just talking
so
about
the
the
spell,
actual spell.
do you know how
Yeah.
concentration
Yeah,
works, like
yeah.
as a mechanic? So basically, if you're deep, deep underwater and you suddenly lose concentration and all the water
Oh,
crushes
yeah.
into that bubble, you are
Okay.
fucked.
Well, this is bad.
So, after doing math, that's about 122 meters, starting from rest and not pushing off.
Jesus Christ, 122 meters?
In 6 seconds,
Well,
122 meters. If we're using the Earth gravity constant.
All right, Bruce, you're about 122 meters underwater almost
so
instantly.
I feel like as this happens, Bruce would
Plus
use
15
his
feet.
shape water and create like some sort of step or brick or something with which he could propel himself up.
Interesting. Good choice. Okay. So as you're free falling, Bruce, at this point I'm gonna go ahead and say
Okay.
you're out of combat. Unless you're like really trying to catch up to those guys. They're gonna keep descending
Nah,
lower and
Bruce has
lower
given
into
up
the
on that
water.
one.
Because they can deal with that. Okay. So as you're free falling through, Bruce, you suddenly realize what's going on. You realize the danger of descending into this abyss unprepared, and you freeze a block of ice, which floats upwards and then like hits your feet and then continues to fall because there's nothing for the ice to float on because it's within 15 feet of you. Does that make
Yes.
sense? So now you and this ice are in free fall, continuing to move downward. I want to point out you can always just choose to halt this spell when you like.
Oh.
But I'm gonna need you to make a Constitution save because you're getting really deep.
I mean,
at
would
this
I be able
point.
to swim to the surface if I just quit the spell?
I mean, the spell would end, all the water would collapse inward, and you would gradually move towards the surface, but you would stop free
I wouldn't
falling.
die though, right?
You don't know?
See, you worded that in a really fishy fucking way. Are you trying to kill Bruce Fantana tonight? Okay.
I mean, let me put this out there for you. Your options are to continue in free fall into this abyss, which will make your situation worse. Or you can stop the spell, but you still have your shape water cantrip if you want to try and do something clever with it.
Yeah, so with my shape water, maybe I should look up the exact wording so I can come up with something here.
Yeah, let me look up this wording.
Let me look up that shape water real quick. Could I use gust?
'Cause you're in a
Could I use
maybe?
Could I
You
use
think of a
Could I
way
use
to
gust
use,
to create like a cyclone or something, like a big huge bubble of air, and simultaneous? Well, maybe not simultaneously. Yeah, or maybe. Let me look it up.
a strong.
I gotta save myself real quick. Could very easily die.
Cesarthic, you know, Bruce in free fall next to you. Buttercup, you see Bruce fly off, and everyone who goes underwater, it's just quiet after that. You're up there with your marrow, just kind of like looking at the surface
Did
of the
Ashta
water.
dive in to save me, by chance?
Firstly, Buttercup just shakes her head, but then she pats the Marrow on the back because she's proud of what he did.
I forgot Ashta was there. Ashta actually totally would.
Oh yeah, I can use gust of wind. It's kind of like that guy from Inuyasha who sucks the thing in his hand, but it like reverse. So I can create a line of strong wind, 60 feet long and 10 feet wide. It blasts from me in a direction I choose.
Gust of Wind is a second level
Yeah.
spell. You want the gust cantrip.
Oh, I see. God damn it.
It says you can create a harmless sensory effect using air, such as causing leaves to rustle, wind to slam shut or shut, or your clothing to ripple in a breeze. Would you like to try to do anything with
First
that?
off, next time I do my like hair waving in the wind thing, he's gonna use that cantrip. Yeah, I think I would probably like attempt to cast a gust to like propel me back upwards.
Okay. All right. At this point, Ashta is going to sort of reach you underwater. Excellent point pointing that out. She is going to come, like, sort of catch up with both Cesarthic and you and bring you up to the surface. You're able to use Gust to relieve a lot of the pressure from just, like, crushing your head, you know? And all three of you sort of move back to the surface. Interestingly enough, Cesarthic, you're going to note there is a corpse of one of these creatures floating in the water. There's also one up top on the surface where it was killed by Buttercup. Or, I'm sorry, the Marrow.
I know a doctor who likes corpses.
That's very true.
Buttercup like pats the Marrow on the back. She's very proud of what he did, and she wants him to know that she was proud of him because he protected and wants to know if he's ready to go back home, because she doesn't want him at her complete beck and call. He is his own sentient being.
You're talking to the doctor?
You're
talking to the Marrow. I'm sorry. Okay, then yes. If you're dismissing the Marrow, then the Marrow will sort of just like nod its head to you, and then just sort of like shift into water and splash onto this ice, vanishing from sight. All right. Well done, guys. You killed the Pale Invaders outside the wall. They weren't necessarily hostile at first, but you now have 2 corpses if you're interested in study. You also have a shitload of NPCs inside this area. While you are all out here, I will point out that all of you notice a distant campfire on the cliff over here.
Ooh.
Near the kind of southwestern
That is...
cave that
We
you guys
haven't been
never
there.
explored.
Okay. Well, it sounds like that might be a good spot for us to check out.
Alright, what would you like to do?
Are you guys good to keep going?
What would you
Are
like
you guys
to
good to
do?
keep going? Or you think it's a good stopping point? I'm down to keep going.
The most that I could see happening is like Buttercup sees that Astra has Bruce and Cesarthic, so she tries to help them all up, and then tries to grab the corpse to like pull it in through the ice, so that way Victor can have it.
My word. Okay. Alright, so are you guys wanting to call it here?
It's really up to them.
If that's the case, I am free to run another session on Sunday if you like. I'm completely ready for another session. I will say I have never spent an entire session on one map before. I'm very impressed with all of you guys for making that happen.
It's already like 1:40 in the morning, so
Yeah,
maybe we should.
I gotta wake up early and get ready for the stream.
Yes, but if you guys are interested, I am happy to
I'd be
run
done.
another session for y'all. When are Eddie and I, or I guess we're doing our thing at like 8:30 in the morning.
Well, we're doing something at midnight. We're gonna be part of the intro.
Yeah, so you guys are signed up for tomorrow at midnight, 1:30 on Saturday, and then 2 o'clock on Saturday, and then 5:30 onwards.
Okay, so we're like AM stuff. That's fine.
AM at the start, so right at midnight we're gonna do something, and then I'm gonna play games with Phil, and then you won't come back
1:30
until the
p.m.
afternoon.
Okay,
So
we do some midnight stuff, and then we like sleep for 12 hours. And do
you sleep for 12 hours. I play some games for like
then I
5
wake
or
up
6
at
hours.
5:30 in the morning. And then I've got to stream for a little while they sleep, and then 1:30 p.m. You'll be doing the Roll20 thing, and then 2 p.m. you guys will be doing Ad Proficiency. Hey guys, if you want to check out our full schedule, you can go to nerdjamtv.com. We've got a little spot on the homepage where you can click on that. And we've also got our full schedule on the Facebook page. We got Minecraft. We've got all kinds of random shit, and it's great. And I'm really excited. Thanks, guys, for agreeing to help out with that. Savannah, Eddie, Hunter, thanks for playing with us tonight. Definitely appreciate it. And Hunter, is there anything you want to add before we duck out?
You guys were all very excellent role players. Check out the Ad Proficiency podcast on nerdjamtv.com or Real Man Who Has Curves. You can catch that on Twitch as well.
You can catch Ad Proficiency on
Yes,
Spotify
you can.
as well.
Good plugs, gentlemen. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We do live D&D on Monday night at 6:30. Wednesday and Thursday around 10 o'clock, and we might be doing a special session this Sunday. I'd be super down for that. We'll have to see after 24 hours of streaming, though. Love you guys. Thank you so much, and check out Finkel tomorrow at noon. He's going to be doing some more magic, and he's going to be trying to get to Mythic, so just tune in for that.
Finkel.
All right, y'all have a good night.